let's talk about a death penalty case that is happening right now in Arkansas. In fact, the trial is set to start next week. The case that I'm talking about is the 2021 murder of Peerage Officer Kevin Apple. The two people that were arrested for this murder are Shawna Cash and Elijah Andazola. Now, Elijah will not be going on trial until March. The jury selection for Shawna Cash's trial started January 29th, and the trial itself is set to start next week. Do you remember this case? I do remember hearing about this case when it happened and feeling for the officer and his family when he died and thinking it's just a crazy case. I don't know. I just wouldn't expect that anything like this could happen at the gas station up the road. Capital cases take a long time to go to trial. This case is no different. It has been 2.5 years since the events of that day. Earlier in the day, on June 26, 2021, the Rogers Police Department put out a BOLO, a be on the lookout, for two suspects that were driving a 90s model blue Jeep Grand Cherokee. This vehicle got away from officers while they were involved in a police chase after some events happened at Walgreens. It all started on South 20th Street in Rogers when a man put a check inside of his mailbox and put the flag up. He was sending out the check to pay for some utilities, and he happened to see a 90s model Jeep Grand Cherokee that was kind of acting weird up and down the street. His wife said that the vehicle did something weird by the mailbox, and then she said she saw one of the people in the Jeep Grand Cherokee open the mailbox and take off. The husband confirmed that the check was gone from the mailbox, and he decided to chase the Jeep Grand Cherokee down. And I'm not really faulting him because I would have been upset too, but he was able to follow the Jeep Grand Cherokee until it pulled into a Walgreens where he got out of his vehicle and pulled a gun on the two occupants of the vehicle and ordered them to get out of their vehicle. They laid down on the ground. He put his gun up and called 911. I think at that time they jumped back in their vehicle and they drove off. By the time Rogers police got to that Walgreens, they were able to chase the Jeep Grand Cherokee, but like I said, the Jeep Grand Cherokee got away. So they went back to the people that were in the Walgreens parking lot to find out, like, hey, what's going on? That's when they got this story. The man was able to get the check back that was stolen from his mailbox before they took off again, but that's about all he was able to do. Now, police took his story, they took a picture of the check, and they took information about the weapon that he had while other officers were looking for this Jeep Grand Cherokee. A little after noon that same day, Pea Ridge officers saw this Jeep Grand Cherokee at a gas station in Pea Ridge and attempted to talk to the occupants, arrest them, whatever it was. The occupants of the vehicle, who were Shawna Cash and Elijah Andazola, had gone inside the gas station to buy a few things and pay for some gas. They had already pumped their gas, I believe. So when Pea Ridge officers arrived, they were already back in their vehicle. So Pea Ridge officer Kevin Apple pulled up in front of the suspect vehicle, and another officer, Stamps, pulled behind the suspect vehicle, kind of wedging them in there so they really couldn't leave. According to the police affidavit, they were able to look at security footage from that White Oak gas station where the incident happened, and allegedly, according to that footage, Officer Apple got out of his vehicle and tried to engage the suspects, Andazola and Shawna Cash, in some kind of conversation, trying to, I guess, coax them out of their vehicle, is what I would assume. So 7 seconds after Kevin Apple got out of his vehicle and started trying to talk to the suspects, they put it in reverse and basically nailed Officer Stamp's vehicle. Officer Kevin Apple moved directly in front of that Jeep Grand Cherokee with his firearm drawn, and 3 seconds after striking Officer Stamp's vehicle, Shawna Cash put it in drive and slammed right into Kevin Apple. When the Jeep Grand Cherokee hit Kevin Apple, he was carried on the front of that vehicle into his own vehicle, being wedged in between those two vehicles until Shawna Cash decided to veer a little bit to the right. Officer Kevin Apple was dragged underneath Shawna Cash's vehicle through a lot of that White Oak parking lot. He was dragged through the parking lot, out of view of the cameras, over a curb, and almost into an intersection. A reconstruction team determined that Officer Kevin Apple was dragged 149 feet under Shawna Cash's vehicle. And honestly, it doesn't seem like Shawna Cash or Elijah Andazola showed an ounce of concern while any of these events were happening. They didn't show an ounce of concern that Kevin Apple was dragged all that way underneath their vehicle. They didn't show an ounce of concern that he was dead on the scene. In that moment, all that they cared about, it seems like, was getting away. Of course, the cold-blooded murder of Officer Kevin Apple elicited more of a search for Shawna Cash and Elijah Andazola. A Bella Vista police officer was able to spot their vehicle and chase them for quite a ways before they pulled into an area. Both got out of the vehicle and decided to run. Now, because Shawna Cash was the driver of the vehicle, the officer felt it was more important to get Shawna Cash to chase her than it was to chase the other person, being Elijah Andazola. So he followed Shawna Cash. It seemed like Shawna Cash actually ran for quite a distance before she was running up a ravine and her pants fell down around her ankles. And that is how they were able to stop Shawna Cash. She didn't give up before that time. As for Elijah Andazola, they received several calls from people saying that Elijah Andazola had ran around the area of an RV. They went and spoke to the 3 occupants of the RV who basically swore up and down, like, I don't know who you're talking about. You're searching for someone. Should we be concerned? But they were able to get inside that RV, and Elijah Andazola was in the RV. So police arrested both Shawna Cash and Elijah Andazola. Shawna Cash was charged with capital murder, first-degree escape, fleeing by vehicle, 2 counts of aggravated assault, leaving the scene of a personal injury accident, criminal mischief in the first degree, obstruction of governmental operations, and reckless driving. Elijah Andazola was charged with theft of property, fleeing, escape, obstruction of governmental operations, failure to submit to arrest, fleeing on foot, being an accomplice to capital murder. According to the detective that interviewed Elijah Andazola after he was arrested, Elijah Andazola cried a little bit. He whispered that he was so sorry, especially after he heard that the officer died. He told a story, but after he heard that the officer died, he kind of backtracked in his story and changed some of the details. He said that there really wasn't any discussion between him and Shawna after the officer was ran over, except for Shawna said, we can never talk about this. Elijah did say that he had known Shawna since he was 15 years old. He said that he and Shawna had always just been friends until a few weeks earlier when they became romantic, but he had a different girlfriend. I don't know, it was kind of weird. When Shawna was interviewed by police, she described her relationship with Elijah as being much different than the way Elijah described their relationship. Shawna called Elijah her future fiance and said that they had been on again, off again for the last 6 years. Shawna did say that she and Elijah were on their way to Elijah's mother's house when they started being followed by a vehicle. I don't know. I just got the feeling that she was kind of like, I don't know why we were being followed. It was almost like she just didn't mention stopping at a mailbox and stealing the people's mail at all. And Elijah did mention that, by the way. When asked about what happened at the gas station, Shawna Cash said that she has mad issues with stress and she freaks out. Shawna Cash also said that she blacks out sometimes, and she said that she didn't see the cop that was behind them at the gas station until the last second. She said, obviously, she couldn't go forward because there was a cop there, but she did go forward. Then she said that she didn't see the officer. She used a lot of excuses. She had sunglasses on. She couldn't hardly see over the steering wheel. She was looking at her phone. She said at some part of that, Elijah told her to gun it and was telling her where to turn. She did finally admit that she may have hit Officer Kevin Apple, but not like she was trying to hit him. It wasn't intentional or anything. So anyway, Shawna Cash is set to go on trial. I believe the trial is going to be starting on Monday, the actual testimony part of the trial. Elijah's trial is supposed to be starting in March. I'm sorry for my condescending attitude during this. It's just really gets to me. This officer was trying to make an arrest over someone stealing another person's mail, and it turned into him getting ran over and dragged for almost 150 feet. It's so awful. And thoughts and prayers to Kevin Apple's family. I can't imagine what you're going through as the trial is set to start, and I just hope that justice prevails.
1212. Peerage 1212. Peerage 1212. Officer Kevin Apple. No response from Peerage 1212. It is with great sorrow that Officer Apple answered his final call on June 26, 2021. His dedication to law enforcement serving the Lowell, Bethel Heights, Farmington, and Bee Ridge Police Department for the last 23 years was unwavering and genuine. Officer Kevin Apple, your memory will live on. We love you. We miss you. We will keep protecting the citizens of Northwest Arkansas as you would want us to. Your blue, gold, and red family now has the watch from here. The Conclair's Peerage 1212 from his final call.